What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Fargo Season 4, Episode 4, The Pretend War. So much rhyming in that. So far, still about the same feeling for everything. Everything to do with the Fada family, seeing Josta and Gaetano basically wrestle for power in a way. It's interesting. I like how they're handling it. They're showing how some people are trying to be loyal to the family and to Josta and what he's trying to do. But then there are some guys that agree with Gaetano and they're like, no, we need to do something about this. So they're willing to go to bat for him. So I like that dilemma. I also like the fact that we're kind of seeing how Otis is being drawn back into the family around the same time that he's trying to put Deffy off the trail. And Deffy clearly is smarter than that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of that works out. But yeah, their whole family dilemma I think is really interesting. Everything to do with the Cannon family right now I think is also pretty interesting because we're seeing how Loy is trying to run his family and trying to protect his family, but also trying to gain more power. And I like the fact that there are no, I don't know, there are no good guys in all of this, I guess. Because sometimes whenever you have situations like this where you've got one family warring with another family, you kind of get the feeling that we're supposed to root for one side or the other. Honestly, I'm not really rooting for either of them. They're both full of despicable people, some a little bit more sympathetic than the others. Like you've got Rabbi, who I feel kind of bad for. Obviously feel bad for the kids. And I would say I probably feel a little bit bad for Loy's family, just because it feels like he's trying to bring them into it when that's just going to put them in more danger, really. But he can't see that because all he sees is the possibility of making money. And that's honestly a lot of his character is he just wants to make more money. That's why he's going to the banks to try to get the credit card thing off the ground. So yeah, I find that very interesting because it really does feel like we're not really supposed to be rooting for anybody. This is all just leading to something awful that's about to happen because you can tell this war, it's this close from starting. So, but I like those conversations whenever they start figuring out that everything's not exactly what they seem. I was a little surprised that Rabbi didn't kind of explain what happened. Like all he said was, protected your son," and that's the only explanation he gave. I'm a little surprised he didn't stick up for himself a bit more, especially because he seems to actually care about what happens to the kids since he was there himself and experienced the treachery that comes with. But I don't know. I guess maybe because he doesn't really like Loy either. I feel like he's just not really playing either side. He's just trying to at least help the kids out in this whole nasty situation. So I feel like that's what makes him a little bit more sympathetic than everybody else involved. But as far as everything to do with I want to say Stussy, but that's not it. That was Ewan McGregor's characters. It's Stunty. I think it's right up here. Smutney. There we go. But everything to do with them, I also am intrigued by. I'm also feeling a little bad for Thurman and all of it because you could tell he's just trying to do his best. He's trying to help his family out. He sees this as an opportunity whenever Zelmara shows up with this money and doesn't even think twice about it. And can you blame him? As long as they've lived under this guy's thumb, he sees the chance and he jumps at the opportunity. Now, of course, he doesn't ask questions, and that's probably going to end up causing him a lot of problems because, of course, we see Loy almost instantly figures out, wait a minute, this is the money that was stolen from me. And I guess in that case, at least the throwing up had something to do with the story. It still feels really stupid. I feel like there's other things you could have done, like maybe he marks his money or something that would have made it a lot less. Oh, we have to have her throwing up all over the money. 'Cause nobody wants to see that. And that's basically, as far as Swanee and Zelmara in this episode, that's basically all it is we see her throwing up more. Zelmara's cleaning the money. They have this weird moment where this guy stands up out of a tub and then is like dropping water. I thought this was supposed to be like a symbolic Reaper moment, but Swanee's still alive, so clearly that wasn't it. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Maybe we'll find out later on. There's also that weird moment earlier in the episode where Ethelrita saw a guy sitting outside of her door, and he was like zombie looking. I don't know. I'm sure there's some symbolism going on. I'm just not catching it at the moment. Maybe I'll maybe I need to go back and just watch those scenes again and see if what I'm missing. But everything to do with Ethelrita and going to clean for oh Olioretta? Orietta, that's right. Cleaning for her, getting into her stash. We finally figure out apparently part of the reason why she's doing this whole Angel of Mercy thing is because she's stealing from all these people. I guess more than likely this is for her a collection. It's almost like trophies. Everybody that she sees that she's helped, she takes something from them to be like, this is a trophy cabinet of all the people that I've helped, ease their pain, is how her mind rationalizes it. So it is a little weird to see her and Josta becoming kind of a thing. Like, I know she gave him a hand job in the last episode while she was singing, which was a little weird. But yeah, in this one they're like, having sex and stuff, and I don't know. I don't really understand what's going on there, why she's interested in him. I can kind of understand from his point of view because he seems like the type of guy, he's got a fiance. I think we only saw her in the one scene, but it looks like he was going to marry her for some sort of power, some like essentially social power, but you could tell it's not really something he wants to do. So here comes this other woman that is showing him attention. Yeah, and for him it's just okay, sure, better than that other girl. So I don't really understand though, like what that's gonna lead to, but yeah, I think what's going on with Orietta and Ethelrita and seeing how their stories are kind of coming together, as well as obviously with Thurman and everything that's going to be happening with Loy and finding out what Zelmare and Swanee did, and the fact that they gave him the money to give to. I mean, this is all just leading to a bunch of misunderstanding that's definitely going to lead to a lot of death, and that's kind of the Fargo way in some ways. Like, it's not always misunderstandings. Sometimes it's just accidents or somebody does do something and then covers it up. This is very much though kind of a Fargo thing where you've just got a bunch of stuff that happens. Sometimes it's random, but most of the time it does cause a bigger issue down the line unintentionally. And there's something kind of fun about that tension building because as an audience member, where this is all leading. The fact that it's basically going to lead toward this assumption that Loy is going to see this and think, oh, Thurman must have hired, this woman. It's going to be very easy to find out since they have did they put out an APB for Zelmare and Swanee? I think they did. But it's going to be very easy to put that together. Like, oh, she has a sister that just broke out of jail who's also with another woman? Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? And it's going to be easy to connect those dots. So from Loy's point of view, it's going to look like Thurman hired his wife's sister and her former cellmate to get out of jail and then go rob him so that he could pay him back. That's not what happened, but he's not going to know any better because that's the assumptions that people jump to in that situation, and you can kind of understand why. But it adds to that tension because Thurman seemingly is a pretty good guy. They're a little awkward, a little weird, maybe a little bit too much of a pushover at times, but he is a good guy who's just trying to do what's best for his family. He sees this opportunity. He's not thinking twice. You feel bad for him in a sense. So that tension of Loy's going to come after him, I think that's what Fargo does a really good job of building up towards, is that, oh no, I see where this is going. And I have a lot of fun with that. So I'm glad that it feels like it's kind of getting back on that track of this is the type of story that I expect to see from Fargo. And I always have fun whenever I do see it. It's just switch out some of the characters, switch out some of the motivations, but it's still very much the similar story of dread, like this impending dread that's on its way, and just hoping that some of the good people make it out of it. But, anyways, that's about it for this one. On to the next one. I'll see you there. And now, episode 5, The Birthplace of Civilization. So, this one was pretty interesting in the sense that it finally feels like the story is getting going. We finally see, in my opinion, this is the big death that kicks it all off. Because so far we've seen a couple of deaths here and there, and obviously the death of the Fada leader, the big boss man, that kind of started things rolling a little bit. But this is the one, with Doctor Senator being shot dead in the street. I feel like this is the one that's really going to kick off this pretty much out and out war. Now, granted, I'm not sure exactly how this is all going to play out because, to be fair, I mean, Justo didn't have anything to do with this. It's all, what's his name? Gaetano. I'm really trying hard to remember these names, but they are so different and difficult to stick in my brain. But it's his doing. So, of course, if Justo comes out and explains that, I feel like Loy would be like, all right, well, give me your brother then. Let me deal with him. I feel like it could easily resolve itself, but at the same time, Justo might get to a point where he's just like, you know what? I'm done having to deal with this. I'm done trying to figure this all out. Fine, let's go to war. And Loy, I mean, he's at a point now where I feel like he's just ready. He's ready to fight back, especially after what Justo did, having Otis use the cops to round him up. I think he's kind of at that point where they've been kind of, pricking and prodding at each other for a little while. I think it's finally getting to that point where it's like, nope, it's time. Let's be done with all of the little, I would almost call them pranks. And obviously they're not pranks. It's much more serious than a prank. But on the level of a criminal syndicate, they feel like pranks. On that level. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do from here with this story and with the battle between the two. As far as, because we see more of Zelmare, I think is actually how it's pronounced. I've been calling her Zelmare or something like that, but they said her name again in this, and I'm trying to remember it. I'm pretty sure they said Zelmare. With her and Swanee, they've now been picked up by Loy. I don't know what to expect out of that. I mean, I know he's planning to use them. Essentially, it's kind of a payback thing of like, you stole from me, so now I'm going to use you to my benefit. And if you don't, then I'll just kill you. I guess he's going to use them to hit back at the Italians, but the thing is, the Italians already kind of know about, because they did talk about this whole two women attacking Loy's family and stuff. So I feel like they would know about the two of them, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it was such a small thing, like, oh, he got attacked by them? Well, we don't really care about that. Maybe they'll forget about it. But I'm not really sure how Loy plans on using them, but I was kind of hoping this would be the end of them, honestly. Again, I'm just not a fan of either of their characters. They're both still very cartoonish in a lot of what they're doing. And the whole speech between Zelmare and Ethelrita, I don't know, it felt like some big grandiose speech that some people would be like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I thought it was kind of stupid, honestly. Yeah, you live your life without rules. Well, guess what? At some point, that's going to catch up to you. If you don't have some sort of rules to guide your life, then there's a good chance you're going to end up hurting yourself or others in the process. That's just the face of it. And honestly, I kind of like the scene where Deafy, I almost want to call him Raylan, so close. But Deafy, when he goes to approach Ethelrita at the school, I liked his little speech to her because he kind of just shuts that bullshit down. It's like, no, these two are murderers. They've killed people to get what they want. That's who you're protecting. You're not protecting they're outlaws. Ooh, isn't that so cool? They do their own thing by their own rules. No, they're hurting people. They are killing people because they want to do things their own way. I don't know. I really like that, and he did sort of cut to the chase and get a little bit harsh with her, but to be fair, he's also kind of pissed off because I think he's pretty sick of being in this town, it seems like. Everything's had to deal with Otis and all of that. I think he's just at that point where he's like, you know what, I'm just ready to get these two women, I'm ready to put them back in prison and just be gone because I'm sick of all of this. It seems like There's so much more here going on that I don't even want to touch, so I'm just going to do my job. But as far as Otis is concerned, though, really giving him some more interesting backstory. We're finding out that the tics that he has, I thought it might have just been like an autistic thing, but it seems like it's more of a trauma thing since he was a minesweeper. Yeah, it's makes him a little bit more sympathetic as a character because it feels like a lot of what he's doing is almost him being taken advantage of because of his position of power. You know, they're essentially using him. It's like, hey, you work with the police? Well, go do this for us. I'm curious to find out why he's doing that. I guess maybe he has ties to the family somehow. But it seems like he's not really wanting to, but he's already in this position, and it's kind of hard for him to get out of it without exposing himself as a dirty, corrupt cop. So I almost feel like he's stuck in this now and he can't get out. But I wonder if we'll figure out at some point how he got wrapped up in this whole syndicate and why he works for them from the inside of the police. What else? I did like the one scene. Ultimately, it did follow the one scene that I was a little about, where Josto comes in and essentially gives this racist speech to the guys in the prison about how he can do whatever he wants because he's white, but if they do it, then they're considered criminals. To me, that just felt like it's almost like the writers wanted us to feel a little bit more bad for the Cannon family and his people. I don't know. They're all kind of terrible people. You know, they're all awful. I don't really feel bad for most of the guys working for these syndicates. It's not like one you're trying to make one a little bit more bad than the other by being like, oh, see, he's racist too. You don't need that. We already hate both families by this point. You don't need to make us hate one more than the other. We're kind of hoping they take each other out so that way innocent people don't keep getting hurt in the process. But after that scene, though, that moment where Rabbi stays behind and basically says, you know, he's trying to figure out how Lloyd's going to respond so he knows what to appropriately do with the son. And that kind of once again shows he's kind of the only real sympathetic character in this whole crime family drama, because ultimately he's looking out for the kids. And I really do like the fact that we have that one character that I feel like we can maybe root for in all of this. Like, I don't want to see Rabbi get hurt. I want to see him protect the kids and keep them from getting hurt in the process. Because ultimately I feel like that's where a majority of people are going to be in all of this. Like, who cares about Loy and his family? Who cares about Josta and his family? Just as long as the kids make it out okay, I'll be okay with that. But the other thing, too, is Loy's whole speech to his wife. It was kind of interesting because it does sort of show, as much as she wants to complain about his lifestyle, she is complicit in it. She has been allowing him to do this because she does like living this life of luxury. And if he didn't do all this stuff that he's doing, she wouldn't have all this stuff. So it's basically him throwing it back in her face like, oh, you want to keep complaining about this? I didn't hear you complaining when I was buying you all this nice stuff. However, with that being said, the speech was still taken back by the fact that it's Chris Rock. And every time I hear his voice, I'm not seeing some intimidating crime lord. I hear Chris Rock. You know, I think about, what are some of his, what's the one where he's like a little cell inside Bill Murray's body? Osmosis Jones, I think. That's all I'm hearing is that voice. You know, it sounds childish in a way. It sounds too comedic for this role. He's getting up there and he's screaming in her face, and I'm not feeling intimidation from him. I'm kind of holding back a snicker. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the fact that they cast him in this role. I feel like there are other people who could have played this part better, and that's no slight to him. Again, he's not acting poorly. He was just very miscast for this role, unfortunately. So that's where I am on it, and that scene for me, it could have been a really good, like, oh yeah, you know, she wants to complain, she wants to get up on her high horse. No, you tell her how it is. But instead, I'm just sitting there and like, this, I can't take this seriously because it's still Chris Rock. We didn't see, did we see any of Orietta? We did see one moment where she was in the hospital and she was banging her head against the wall, probably thinking about killing that guy. I wonder if this is how she chooses her victims, if it just gets to a point where some of them annoy her with their, groaning and their moaning and their and she's like, all right, fine, let me take care of you then. Or if it's just something where she sees a certain case and she's like, you know what, nope, you guys are too far gone, so I'm just going to help you out. I hope we get to learn a little bit more about her and her process, because something very intriguing about getting into that, that's why I enjoy Criminal Minds so much, is just seeing how that sort of mind works. Like, what rationalization is she using to choose her victims and decide this is helping them to kill them? So, but yeah, Ethelrita, I think, is kind of... It's funny because I thought she was going to be a little bit more of a main character, but honestly, she's kind of just a part of the mix in all of it. But her whole dilemma about what to do, I do find that very interesting, because she's trying to be, as cliche as it sounds, she's trying to be her own person. She's trying to make her own decisions, but she's getting kind of pushed and pulled by several other adult figures in her life that want her to be a certain way. Her mom wants to be her certain way. Her dad wants her to be a certain way. Her aunt wants her to be a certain way. So she's dealing with all of this pressure, and ultimately she's stuck in this, what do I do with this situation that I found myself in, where I think I've uncovered a nurse who's been killing people. Yeah, it's tough, because on the one hand, you're just a kid, and it's going to be hard for somebody to take you seriously. Also, if Orietta gets found out, she's going to figure it out, because obviously we saw she left her notebook in there in the last episode, but even if she didn't, there are not many people who have been in Orietta's house, so it would be very easy for her to piece it together. So I do think her dilemma right now is pretty interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Obviously, she was still kind of leaning on the whole, I'm going to protect my family, in the moment when Defi comes to threaten her. But I don't know. It felt more like a loyalty thing than it was I'm choosing to help these outlaws. I do wish maybe that it affected her a bit more when she heard about the truth of what her aunt and Swanee had been doing. But it did seem a little bit like she was affected, but then all of a sudden she's like, but wait, no, she's still my aunt. She's still family. I still got to protect her. Just a few interesting points there, and I think a lot of how I feel about Ethelrita's story is going to come down to how does it play out in the end. Where does her story go from here? Because if they do something interesting with it, if they take her in an interesting, I guess, adventure and dilemma, and she makes some good decisions, I don't know. I think there's something really cool there that they can do with it. But if not, if they kind of flounder in it and she just goes, yeah, you know what? My aunt had a point, even though she's clearly putting people in danger, putting herself in danger, and kind of follows in her footsteps, I feel like that's going to sort of sully her character a bit for me. But yeah, I think all in all, it's a pretty good episode. And again, I think this is finally that point of, all right, here we go. What's going to happen now? We're probably going to see some retaliation from Loy. There's going to be probably some bodies start dropping soon. And I don't want to say that's the fun of Fargo, because bodies dropping should not be fun. But that is the intrigue of Fargo, is seeing how all of this sort of leads to ultimately all of the death and destruction that follows, and how all these innocent people are caught in the crossfire because of it. It's not fun, but I think it's almost a cautionary tale in a way, a lot of these seasons that we've had so far. And on top of that, the dark comedy that they mix in, it's enough to keep me lighthearted feeling out of all of this. Thankfully, there were no fart jokes in this one, so good for that. But anyways, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Fargo reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.